Another massive weekend coming up in horse racing. Barry Spears joins me, Gino here to get you all ready for Saratoga Saturday. Barry, this one really feels like one of those big summer weeks. We've had a couple bad weather weeks at Saratoga, but Del Mar is up and running now. Looks like we may have gotten some of the CAW stuff handled with Del Mar, and we've got big action at Del Mar, big fields. The Clement L. Hirsch is a good race, but Saratoga this weekend, they get the spotlight. That Whitney card on Saturday is fantastic.
Yeah, it's funny because of the Belmont and how it was up there the last couple of years. It kind of makes the positioning of everything a little weird and almost old school to
The,
where the August portion of things is where it's at. And
yep.
I get that kind of throwback feeling of the 80s and 90s where it was just in August, and these kind of weekends were every weekend. It looks like there's going to be a lot of that coming up.
So the entire Saturday card at Saratoga is good. The sequence that we decided to focus on is races 7 through 11 because that's a mandatory payout pick 5 sequence, and it has the big graded stakes races all in the mix for us. So we'll be able to hit on all those races, talk about them in a low takeout pick 5 sequence. Races 8, 9, 10, and 11 are going to be the big ones on Saturday, which is race number 11 is the Whitney. So we'll be able to end in the graded stakes races. I kind of like that too, because those are like a lot of times the more formful races when you can end with the big ones and have them be kind of the closeout leg of your exotics.
Yeah, that worked out well for me, except one time when Bayern won.
Oh,
like the only time it didn't work.
And that was before we were talking, and that was a day when it was a bad ending for you and a good ending for me out of the gate when he crossed them over and took them all out. So that's so funny.
I can't complain because I did hit that early pick 4 with Bobby's kitten.
Okay.
The same day, so I'm not, don't feel too bad.
Okay. You had a decent day too, but that was before we were even hanging out, before we were even talking. Now we're talking about AI. It's crazy how the times have changed, and even in horse racing, AI with the ability to just make your life easier, right? Because for my mom, Barry, when she plays the races, a lot of times she likes to play jockey trainers and stuff like that. So she can just ask a question and it can get her all set up for the day. Like, who can you let me know all the mounts or some of these trainers' entries and what, she can find the prices and then take a look at them. The one thing that I've been enjoying to do is, okay, hey, I'm looking for some prices in the late pick 4 today. Can you find me some horses that are 10-1 or over in the late pick 4 sequence that you think are live? And it'll set up the question, give you some options in each. They're not all going to be perfect, but man, that saves me a bunch of time because as someone who might be looking for some prices, I can go, okay, let's take a second look at this 12-1 shot or this 15-1 shot. You can use this thing however you want.
I really enjoy it myself personally, but I can see how this tool could be really good for somebody that's new.
Brand
Just
new.
ask them any question about anything that's going on or anything they see at the races, and they get an answer.
Yep.
And it's right. They don't have to bother anybody or talk to a person if they kind of introverted. And I think it'll be a good tool, and the more obviously that people use it, the better it's going to get.
And for new players, just the type of people you're talking about, people that are weekend warriors or that don't have as much time to sit down and handicap the races all throughout the week. Maybe on the weekend, you look at races for 20, 30 minutes before you put a sequence in. This can really help save you time and not necessarily give you the winners to every race, but just for your handicapping. Hey, can you isolate some of these horses for me or these types of horses for me or horses who have done this? And it will really help you out. The more it gets used, the smarter it will get, the sharper it will get. It's free all throughout Saratoga. So test it out right now. See if it's something that you like. We're going to keep working on it. Use that QR code or go to the website chat.drf.com. They have a lot of these contests rolling right now too, Barry. The Fun in the Sun tournaments. You and I love these. These are great. Last 5 races of Saratoga every week. First 5 races of Del Mar. And every week there's a winner. You get paid to the top a few positions, but the top 5 people qualify for the final table, and the money starts to build up. And then at the very end of the meet, all the people who qualified for that final table get to play. I like it because it's affordable. It's $125. It doesn't cost you thousands to get in. And of the 125, 100 of it is the money that you're betting right on your account. So win or lose, you're betting $10 win wagers that are just going to sit right there on your account. at Saratoga and Del Mar. It's races you're already looking at. I think it's one to check out at Express Bet. They have a bunch of stuff coming up this week. Like, there's one at Assiniboia, one at Mountaineer, really affordable too, like some $500 tournaments to try to get you Pegasus World Cup qualified. So tournament players, be on the lookout. Barry, my friend, let's talk some Saratoga race number 7. Saratoga kicks off that mandatory pick 5 on Saturday. It's a tricky race to kick off the pick 5 sequence here. Horses, I think that will take some money. You look towards the outside of the field, and Speakeasy was an interesting horse who was so good when he won his career debut. And then in his second start, he was supposed to run in the Fountain of Youth, and he got scratched and he got a little bit backed up. He ends up winning his second start, but going into the Jerkins, a little bit overmatched there and hasn't been able to get back into the winner's circle. He'll always take a little bit of support, but you have Credit Worthy, who's 3-1. He'll take some money. Jefferson Street to the outside, but I feel like it's going to be spread out a pretty good amount in here once you get beyond Credit Worthy, who looks logical, lightly raced on paper. And then you have a bunch of these other horses who, kind of look the same or could maybe be similar prices.
Yeah, this field is kind of all over the place. You got a lot of horses that want to do different things. From a pace scenario standpoint, it seems like it's going to be fair. There's enough speed in here and enough closers to kind of balance things out. So it seems like a race that the best horse will probably win. That being said, I think Safi and the Ortiz brothers are holding all the cards here. Hold My Bourbon.
I like this horse.
Really nice horse, and is moving in the right direction. I'm not so fond of the post position. Being in the
Agree.
1 is not the best thing. And the other negative, I guess, would be the price. He's going to get bet down a little bit from that 10-1, I'm pretty sure, because of the fact that Jose Ortiz lands here. But there's enough other horses to where this horse isn't going to be 6-1, probably be more like 8 or 7-1. And I can live with that in a race like this.
Wide
and
open.
Then the other horse, Dilger, is coming into this race the right way. His races this year have been really good, and he's on the improve. I mean, his last one in the big drama wasn't the greatest, but I can see a horse like this who has a little bit of versatility, could be closer up to the pace or kind of lag behind, kind of come through here. He ran pretty good in the Carter back in April, and if he can kind of put something like that together, he might be okay in this spot.
The 1 was actually the horse that I started with too. I love this cutback for him. It'll give him an opportunity to sit off the pace just a little bit more, saving ground, maybe just behind the leaders down on the inside. If you look at his dirt form overall, the dirt wet track form is very, very good. I mean, he doesn't have that many poor performances overall, and you can kind of put a line through maybe the grass races, didn't really fire on the turf. Everything else makes a lot of sense, even a poor race before a bit of a layoff and had an in-between trip here at Turfway. So I'm using him for sure. Hold My Bourbon. We started with the 11, who's obviously logical. A couple others that are interesting to me. I'm going to play one ticket where at least where the 2 is on the ticket, because I have no idea if this horse is good enough. I don't even really know how far, he wants to go, but he's got 7 furlongs previously at a lower level. And if everybody sits a little bit, he is the fastest. And if he can clear the field, second start off the bench, second start as a 4-year-old with the ability to take a step forward, he's a feast or famine type horse. Like, early with him, if he doesn't clear the field, he doesn't have much of a shot. But I kind of look through the rest of these. I think there are a lot of horses that want to be kind of sitting just off a little bit. And I think he is by far the fastest horse. So I'm curious if there's a version or 2 of this race where he can get a little bit loose at a massive price. I'm going to throw him in just in case. The horses like what do we do with the horse like the 7?
I like the 7 in this spot, actually, with the big barn and everything.
Yeah.
It was probably needed in some fashion because the horse was kind of on his way up. I don't know exactly what the setback was back in last August, but he seemed to have shaken that off. He came back in March, ran pretty good. That race, actually, in that 62 claimer, would probably be right there with these.
Yeah, that's a
He
solid
probably
effort.
has to come back with something more along the lines of his first two races, but he's certainly capable. I'm just really curious as to what his price is going to be,
Yeah,
because it could stay exactly at 10-1, and I don't know what to make of that if that
Thi-
does happen. I'm expecting this horse to get bet down, and if that doesn't happen, I'd have to say this horse might be cold
because
completely.
I thought this was. I mean, when it comes to the morning lines and the odds, David is the absolute
He's the
best.
best.
And
Yeah.
this race, I thought was a tricky one, just
Yeah.
in making the odds, because what you're saying, I did look around and you're like, gosh, Credit Worthy seems like the lightly raced upside horse. Then you have a lot of these horses who they're kind of like similar looking on paper. The two that we mentioned, the 1 and the 7, I could see them getting bet a little bit because we kind of gravitated towards them, but I don't think it's going to be so much maybe that they're unplayable. It's a little tricky. This was one of the harder races I had in
Oh
trying
yeah.
to get a sense for the prices that horses might be. The 3 was the other one that I thought was interesting. Echo again did her day. So I did recently just did the interview with Mark Cassie. Shout out to Norm. We talked a little bit about Norm. So in the next like few weeks, we'll have a couple more coming, and having a good like 30, 35 minutes or so, getting through everything with Mark. And then there's like a point where I get that like something stuck in my throat, and so like I press mute and you can't really hear me, but like if you might be able to see me off camera dying. I'm like, I'm like, I'm like choking, and I'm like, I can't get this thing out of my throat. And I'm like, now I'm starting to get uncomfortable and I'm like sweating, because I just can't get this. Then it feels like I'm going to throw up because I'm like gagging a little bit, just trying to get this thing out of my throat. And we finish, I'm able to get through it because most of these interviews aren't really me talking. It's me asking a question, setting it up for the interview for the guests because it's about them. So, I was able to like get a couple of the last questions set up, but I'm still like, and then he was like, right as we finished, he's like, "You okay, man? I thought I might have to call the 911 for you or something for a second." I was like, "Yeah, it just had that moment." And it's funny when it's going to be okay. But like right then, I was so like,
Panicked.
I am like, I am literally gonna throw up right now into the camera because I'm like choking, and I was like just trying to get through it. So I'm curious when I watch back how bad it is. So if I put like a thing on the like a disclaimer, like cue Gino's a coughing attack in 3, 2, 1, right? And then you just see me like going at it or something. But all of that because we get to this Norm Cassie horse Echo again, who he's like, he wouldn't be a shock to me to see him run well. Like 2 starts back at Churchill, that's not bad. Why he's a little interesting to me is because he keeps getting stuck on these wet tracks, right? So look at his overall form. His last 4 races in a row, too. Good track, wet fast, and a sloppy track. So every race since Norm has had him, he hasn't even gotten one fast track yet. And this horse is better. You can just see he wins a lot more often on a fast course. If they go fast in this bigger field, I actually think 7 furlongs is kind of a good trip for him. Got a little versatility to him. He might be a sneaky horse that I think people see like 3rds and 4ths and kind of dismiss. But I do wonder if it is fast out there this weekend and not wet, he's a horse who I'm going to throw in too in some way, shape, or form in this tricky race to start, Barry.
Yeah, I mean, I suspect this is one of those races where you'll see a horse that you don't expect that's going to run big
Yep.
in this spot. Almost like a race on Derby Day, where
Yeah.
you get, a lot of good horses that are really closely matched, just like this
In
field.
good form too. You feel
Right.
like they're going to be running like their big races this weekend.
Yeah, definitely. A horse like Credit Worthy has a lot of questions, and
Right?
if that horse is favored, I really do want this horse to get bet down to favoritism, because I'm kind of itching my chops to bet against this horse. I mean,
He's
yeah, the race in the slop at Aqueduct on the dirt was good, but there's a lot of questions about the field. Can he come back in this kind of field? First graded stake, well, not a graded stakes try, but It's close.
strong field.
It's
So
a
it's going
really
to, and
strong field.
you're facing quality horses. And I think what's tricky about him too is you said he's done the bulk of his work on the turf. Overall, nothing to knock. All of the
No, nothing.
performances are solid and they all make sense. He races, career debut, just misses, comes back and wins a second start. Then he's off from August to April, shows back up in April, runs just like a horse who needs the race a little bit, has a little trouble. The race comes back strong. He wins his next time out, but he's never been on a fast dirt surface. He won a race that was an off the turf race. So those races are generally softer, right? If they're
Yep.
initially carded for the grass, they get taken off the grass. They're just not as strong of a field. And he's going to definitely, based on connections and just this being a tricky race, he will take a lot of money in here. He's the type of horse who you look at and you're supposed to try to poke some holes in as a gambler.
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah.
You would want to bet against a horse like this.
Yeah.
You know, half the time he's favored and half the time he doesn't win. So yeah, I think this field is ultra tough. I honestly would be surprised if he is actually the favorite, but I think he'll probably be second or third choice at worst. So it just makes this a wide open event. But I would gravitate towards the two Saffy horses personally.
The one is the one that we both kind of jumped towards. I thought there was a fun long shot with some sneaky speed here in Barksdale. We both thought the 7 Speakeasy, good spot to get this guy, try to get back started and maybe get back into the winner's circle. And what do you want to do with a horse like the 11 Credit Worthy, who will probably take a good amount of money in here, really has to prove it in a good group against some solid, like older allowance and stakes horses. That's race number 7, and it's the only one that we will discuss that's not a graded stakes race because we have 4 consecutive grade 1s coming up, starting with the 4-star Dave. One of the best turf milers of last year was Johannes. He was 5 for 6. The only race that he lost was in the Breeders' Cup Mile when he ran a really good second. This is a horse who had some spots. He could have run in the Eddie Reed last weekend. They chose to come in this race because it's a grade 1. It's for a lot more money, for $750,000. And he was going to be a short price wherever he landed. Now, this is a tougher spot. He had to ship and he has to deal with the layoff. But he has dealt with the layoff before, Barry. We've seen him fire fresh off long layoffs, and he had a really nice year last year.
Yeah, unbelievable year. And if he picks up anywhere near what he was doing last year,
they're all running for
he
second.
he lays over this field. I mean,
Yep.
Like let's say this race was run July last year. He'd be 3 to 5 in this spot, maybe even less.
Yeah.
I don't gather he's going to be close to 5 to 2. He's going to be under that. I think I'm thinking more towards the 4 to 5, 6 to 5 end of things, but deservedly so. I mean, I really can't knock him, especially against the competition he's facing. You have horses in here like Deterministic, who nice horse, but not a grade 1 horse.
And why
he won a grade 1, but it was under optimal circumstances, and I don't think he's getting those kind of circumstances on Saturday. Same thing with Spirit of St. Louis. I couldn't bet that horse with any kind of confidence in a race like this. Because of the distance. I think he's better going longer, and he just hasn't faced horses of this caliber. He kind of did last year, sort of, or at the beginning of the year, but still hasn't faced the likes of a horse like Johannes, and that horse is probably going to get bet. There's not many directions to go here. Gino is another horse that I thought just really hasn't made the jump up. I don't know if that's solid yet, but he didn't really look all that great. He beat a horse, a field that was okay at Aqueduct back in June. But I got to see more if he's going to win a race like this. Think Big is the horse that actually is really interesting to me. I think he's better going a mile than he would be going 5. And he was dominating going 5. Ran a really good race July 5th in the Kelso. I think he can build upon it. Whether he's better than Johannes on Saturday, I don't think so, but I could see him kind of turning the tables if Johannes doesn't come with the A game.
Yeah, I think what makes the race tricky is just obviously the layoff, like we're pointing out. If he had a
Sure.
race or two under him, then I'm not worried about him in any way, shape, or form. You can be worried a little bit because of the layoff and because of the ship. And I think when we're talking about his price, why I actually wouldn't be shocked either if he goes a little lower is because you don't really have that number 2 horse in
None.
this race, right?
Nope.
It's like after him, there's a next tier. So like if you don't like Johannes, then you're looking at the tier of like think big, intellect, deterministic, spirit of St. Louis, win for the money could all be in that range. Pretty similar prices. So
Yeah.
I think that's why I wouldn't like he may even take more money because after him, there's not like that 1 or 2 other horses. Like then that next tier of horses, the money's going to be spread around. So I'm going to probably play this race like 2 different ways. I think I'll probably play one ticket where I just single him in the pick 5 and play, around him with all the other horses that I like. I will definitely play a ticket where I have him and a couple of these other horses that because the way I'm going to look at it is if he doesn't win, then I'm treating everybody without him in the race, right? I'm handicapping this race without him. Then I think this race becomes a race that a lot of these horses can obviously beat each other.
Yeah,
horse like
absolutely.
Right. So I think that's how you have to look at how are you going to play this thing? Because if you're already looking at it as if I have Johannes in a spot or I'm not going to use him, then he's beat. Everybody does look pretty competitive when you remove him from that. The horse that you mentioned, think big. The one to me, or a couple to me that I will use here, Gino, because a little bit of a Barry angle. Like he's running some races last year, then his race off the bench is actually equally as good as anything he was doing last year. I think he's versatile, and he was a little bit unlucky in some of his races last year when he was behind Neat. We saw him beat Langnos. He was right there with Deterministic. He got some like pretty tough trips, and he only really ran poorly at Kentucky. So I'm curious, can he step up with some of these other horses who have already stepped up, like Deterministic, and we've seen race a little bit more this year? I'll give him one look. And then the 4, absolutely think big. You talked a little bit about him. The horse who I'm kind of cold on is Intellect. Because Intellect got a perfect trip last time.
He got worked. Yeah.
I needed him. He was sitting perfect. He moved exactly. And Think Big just ran him down right on the square.
Ran by him.
Yeah. he was just better. Like totally just absolutely better. So if he gets bet a little bit, I'll be cold on him. And he might, because he's not been bad in those races. But I just thought that was the spot last time.
That was it. Yep.
To play him there. That was his race. He got the trip. He moved early and just wasn't quite as good, and now has to face tougher in here. I might, if the 7's a price, I might throw him in, but I do agree with you. He's better going longer. He's just not, like, I never bet him at his shorter prices, but in here, if I'm thinking of this like no Johannes and he's 5-6 to 1-ish, I might be okay with him. Sounded like you were getting to somebody else too.
Yeah, it definitely was. But the funny thing about Spirit of St. Louis is this horse gets bet a lot.
I know.
It's
Ever
insane.
since the day that the day he didn't get bet that much.
Right. I was like, yes, that was the day.
You liked him. And then since then, he's got bet because he's won some big races this year. But you were kind of hitting on it. This is a good field. Like he has not faced Johannes this year, a horse like that. And he was behind Deterministic already in his most recent race. So he's got those 2 to deal with among, Intellect, Win for the Money, Think Big, the horses who all come out of the Kelso. So right there's a grouping of like 5 or 6 horses who are probably about as good as what he's been facing.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what's going to make it tough. So price for him, I would need. Like, I don't want to take him any shorter. Who else do we want to hit on?
A horse that I'm going to give a shot to in this race is the 9 Laganos. The way you feel about the 1 horse is the way I feel about Laganos.
Sure.
Had some tough trips. And and I think a lot of it is his own doing in a way, because he's not the greatest at finishing races off. But if he gets a setup, he's going to be close.
That's why the
And
mile might be kind of good, like a little cutback to where he doesn't have to
exactly.
do as much, just kind of fire quickly, and you have a good finisher aboard. If he can just get the trip, get him in a spot, and then finish, he's going to be a massive price.
Right. And I think he's going to be in the picture. And that might make all the difference, especially, if close to the race or whatever, I gravitate towards using um, Johannes. This is a good underneath horse for exactas, tries, supers, if you're into that sort of thing. But this horse is just knocking on the door. Has been running really, really good races, just hasn't been winning. Then went down to Louisiana, beat a horse in Tough Little Nut, who's pretty good. Came back off of that, and has been running really good races, just hasn't been winning. Maybe the change to Rosario might be what the doctor ordered, or the trip. Either one, I think he could benefit off of on Saturday, and I think he might show up in the picture somewhere.
So Mercante is the horse who you see in the past performance running lines, winning or finishing second behind Spirit of St. Louis in the Turf Classic. I mean, he would probably be the
Yeah,
top
he's in the
three
middle of the
choice.
road. Like,
Like,
yeah, probably fourth choice, third or fourth.
yeah,
choice.
like he would be in this mix with these horses after Johannes, right?
Absolutely,
like in that price range, and maybe even it's a little tough with him because he just missed a race, Mercante, and now he's going to come back this week, so maybe he'll be a little bit higher up. But at that point, he's in really nice form there too, and you see that form run right through the 9 horse here, who's going to be a massive price of 20-1. So it all starts from a gambling standpoint with Johannes. What do you want to do with this guy? He's trying to get himself ready to peak for the Breeders' Cup Mile. It's his first start of the year. If he comes back with anything like those races last year, they're all probably running for second. But if he does need a race, if the shipping took something out of him, if he's a little bit short, really opens things up for a lot of other horses in here. One that I mentioned was the 1, Gino. One that Barry mentioned was the 4, Think Big. We kind of started with those horses as our next horses after Johannes. And then some other interesting prices for Barry was like the 9, Langios. I'll be keeping an eye on the prices of the 7 and yeah, definitely the 1, Gino. So there's the grade 1 4-star day. That's going to go as race number 8 at Saratoga on Saturday. We move to the Saratoga Derby. This one is race number 9, Barry. And this one does look like the horses who have shipped in. I mean, at least starting with Hotsahel on paper, coming out of some really good races, like just towers over this field on a class standpoint, the races that this guy exits. But what I will say, when you look through this field, there isn't very much speed in this race. So if you're trying to handicap it that way, it's a little tricky because you have a few horses shipping in, and a horse like Juweiler showed speed most recently in Germany. But how is that going to translate in a race like this? Is he going to be on the lead in here? We have a horse like New Century, who sat close last time out. I don't necessarily know if he wants to be on the lead. It didn't really, right?
Yeah, he's not really wanted. I think Frankie's going to get it on the 8, Tiberius Thunder.
Right? That's the horse. Right. I agree. And that's the one who I might throw in some spots because of that. I think he's a little bit interesting if he's able to get out front and get the lead here, because there just isn't that much other pace proven on paper. Who are some of the horses, and what are some of your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, this race is a little bit tricky because it all really depends on how you feel about the horses coming from overseas. They seem to be the best horses in this race, despite what their morning line odds are. Like the 2, Dreweiler, this horse ran a 101 time form rating in a loss at Shanti. I would think coming over here,
that translates pretty well.
I was going to say it fits. Maybe not 20-1 fits, but I think that horse probably would be better. Same thing with Tiberius Thunder, especially with the pace scenario. I think Frankie's probably going to try to pop the gate and get out in front and control his pace, which he is very, very, very good at. Better than we even thought when he first came over here to ride full time. So that'll be interesting. But one of the really interesting American horses, I think, is Tistastic. I think this horse could come around back to
You
his
said
form
no shot last time.
No, and he really didn't have a chance. And I think he improved on the dirt. And getting back to the turf seems very, very logical. He didn't get the greatest of runs in that race, so I'm inclined to throw that out and give him a shot here because he can run. He's proven that on several occasions, obviously in the Louisiana Derby. Um, I think turf is his preferred surface.
Of the horses that are not the Euros, there were two that were on my radar: the 4 and the 5, Tistastic and Test Score. Those
Yeah.
are just the horses that I thought, and mainly because Tistastic, like he looks a little bit like Final Gambit in that these are these horses who are probably going to be better going back to the turf. But the difference is Tistastic is a little sneakier and is going to be, I think, a better price in this race. Like Final Gambit's been getting bet quite a bit recently in his last couple races. And I feel like Tistastic's kind of forgotten about after his last couple. But I agree with you. You saw this horse improving on dirt, and I don't even think that's his preferred surface. I think he's better on. He's going to be a better grass horse, so I would throw him in. But for me, it's like the two. I had the 2, 7, and 8. Started with the 8. And then my next tier was the 2 American horses, the 4 and the 5. I just did think that the shippers, the imports, look a little bit stronger. Like I think Test Score is solid, but I don't know if he's a great. I think he's been fine in his last couple races, no knocks. I do like that he's showing a little more versatility, kind of tactical speed, able to sit a little closer. That could come in handy in this race if they're not flying early, Barry.
Yeah, absolutely. He could get a good spot and good position, but it's going to be tough to hold off these Euro shippers. They close like freight trains every time. And, the ones they bring to Saratoga seem to like it a little bit more.
Yeah. Not sure if we have anyone else to really hit on. I mean, we got the major players here. Anything else you want to mention on this one?
I was really cold on New Century. This horse had a lot of chances after that Summer Stakes back in
Agree.
2024 to win and just hasn't gotten it done. Ran okay last time in the Belmont Derby, but it's like, what kind of trip does this horse get? And I think they might get bet a little bit just off the connections.
Yeah, I agree. I'm cold on that one as well. I had this horse in a fantasy league right after that and was just kind of trying to get back to this one repeatedly over and over, and fine, okay races. Just feel like there are other horses that are stepping forward, and this might have been one of those precocious horses early on who was just a little bit ahead of everybody. Race number 9, the Saratoga Derby, another one in the Grade 1 parade as we move to the Grade 1 test. So I did also just find this. There is a tournament this weekend that involves the Whitney. How about this one? The $500 Whitney Day Challenge that you can check out and pick up some NHCC. So if you're already looking at this card, you're playing this card, go check out ExpressBet. This might be something that you're really interested in. Live money, cash, NHC seats up for grabs. Check out that Whitney Day Challenge over at ExpressBet. Barry, Grade 1 test coming up. And we got to start with Echo Sound because Echo Sound ran a 101 buyer speed figure. She's 5 for 6. She just won the victory ride. So absolutely from a talking point, start with her. But if you eliminate her last race, she was not running races that are so much better than the rest of this group before that. The rest of her figures were very much similar with this group. So you have to ask a question when you see horses like this. Was that one race kind of an outlier? Were there just circumstances that day that helped that particular horse? Or is this horse now taking a step forward? And are they going to be in a different level? Are we going to be looking at a horse that just has different sets of speed figures now because she stepped herself up? I have a tough time when it's a horse in a small field like that and they pour it on.
Yeah.
Right? It was just a field of 4 when she was able to get that big figure, the 101.
It's funny because over the years of using the daily racing form and buyer speed figures and stuff, this sort of situation is always tricky because you have to evaluate it as it's a perfect trip win.
Yeah.
And that's what I've done in this race because, that was a 4-horse field. Echo Sound ran excellent, but it was the best trip out of any of the 4 in the race, clearly. The 101 seems a little bit inflated. And if you go by this horse's body of work previously, I would say, somewhere in the vicinity of 87, 88-ish is probably the standard for Echo Sound as far as
Yeah.
buyer speed figures. And to me, that's not good enough to win this race.
That's what makes her, I think, a play against, especially kind of looking at the sequence, some of the other races where you have some of the horses that might be a little shorter. I feel like she could be one of the favorites that I'm trying to take some shots against. And it's mainly because I do like some of these other fillies with some upside moving forward. I think there are a couple different ways you can go in here. Like even just, like starting from the inside, you can legitimately make a case for just about everybody. Ragtime is 2 for 2. She comes off a 96 buyer speed figure last time out. Kilwin won her first start on the dirt with a 96 buyer speed figure. Look forward, she's awesome sprinting. Just isolate her sprint races. She won the 8 bells 2 starts back, and look at every race that she has sprinting. She also finished in front of Scottish Lassie going long last time out, and then Scottish Lassie came back to crush. Cash Calls won 3 races in a row. No idea how good she is or who she's beat, but she's definitely heading in the right direction. Me and Molly McGee might be the fastest horse in here early on. Like, I don't know if anybody's quite as quick as this filly early. Echo Sound is super obvious. And then you move to the outside. Artisma is very fast. Look at her 3 races. And then Beauty Reigns, she could sit a pretty nice trip from the outside. She's got some versatility. It's a field of 8 where you understand why the 6 Echo Sound is the favorite. She can't not be coming off that big figure. But I thought this race was a lot more wide open than just her.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Kilwin is actually looks exactly the same as Echo Sound on paper, except the buyers are just slightly lower.
Yeah, and they were grass instead of dirt, right? And then you see her flip to the dirt, and then boom, that was a good effort from her, and she sat a really nice trip.
Yeah, she certainly did. It was a perfect trip win, and she deserves that 96, but I don't think she's getting that kind of setup. Ragtime is definitely interesting.
Yeah.
Here, this horse ran away twice at Saratoga, with 2 good figures. I don't, again, like the rail draw, but when you consider everything that we've already talked about with Echo Sound being a little questionable, that puts this one right in the mix at a good price at 4 to 1. And then the 8 Beauty Reigns, who Echo Sound got the best of last time, I think they can turn the tables. I always thought the Beauty Reigns.
Me too. We've talked about her a few times. We've liked her a few times.
Really
I just always been high on her, and she's got some unlucky trips a few times. You look at earlier in her career, she wins. They try her going longer a couple times. Just toss those races, cross out the races going long, and then look at all of her other sprints. And with the outside draw in this kind of a race where it's evenly matched and she may need to be asked to do different things, I like that. And Irad is riding
gets
really
the rider
well.
I was going to say, and gets the rider that probably can make the most of that trip. He's riding very, very well right now. And again, he's not going to be on the lead, which I appreciate because if there's any weakness in his game, it's riding on the lead. He's great at timing runs in shorter type races. He fits the bill here, and he's loaded. He's got a good horse. I like Beauty Reigns quite a bit here.
A couple that I'll be mentioning. Definitely the one who you talked about, Ragtime. No knocks on that one. I do wonder, and when I looked at the pace projector, I was kind of curious. You have a bunch of horses in here who are kind of sitters. And I do wonder if there's a version of this race where the 5 can maybe sneak away with Dettori aboard. We were talking about Dettori, and maybe the plan for him on Saturday is just get ready to get aggressive with some of these horses, right? A few of them get ready to go, because I think Ragtime wants to sit a little bit. Kilwin wants to sit a bit. Look Forward wants to sit a little bit. Cash Call wants to sit a little bit. I don't know if any of these horses necessarily want to go and battle. Then the horse that he was battling with last time out, Artisma, I wonder if that was just because Artisma drew the rail, drew the inside, and was just trying to hold that position. And now moving towards the outside, I wouldn't be shocked to see that horse sit a little bit. If everybody sits back a little bit and the 5 catches a flyer and can just go on with it, I definitely want to have that one on the ticket just in case in this race, because I do think there are versions of the race where that happened.
Well,
And Barry the
that's
three is
why
another. Go ahead.
I was going to
Go
say
ahead.
that's why I thought Ragtime might end up kind of gunning it to the lead because of the
And
fact that they're on the rail.
sure,
Uh,
hold
and
that position at least, or at least make the horses work hard, and then she can get off the rail if she needs to.
right. And either way, because if this five, me and Molly McGee goes and Artisma goes, then if the one actually goes also, they can kind of shift back and sit a really great trip. So it's going to be to their advantage to kind of at least get out and try to get to the lead. And if they don't get it, they'll sit an even better trip, honestly, because that would mean the 5 and the 7 would be in front of them.
So look at a really solid edition of the test. So we start with Echo Sound as the horse to beat. But Barry and I are both lining up to try to beat her because you're going to play her and you're going to pay for her off of her big win last time out. And in other ways, you can get so much more value on other horses. For Barry, a horse like the 8 Beauty Reigns, we both are very much interested in the 1 Ragtime. Absolutely. I thought the 3 Look Forward and the 5, me and Molly McGee, are horses that I want on the tickets as well. The grade 1 test is going to go as race number 10. So, Barry, as we move to race number 11, Chase, your podcast partner on the Notorious OTB, was world traveling this week, huh? He's over in Alaska, all over the place. So you guys, you had the week off this week, right, of shows? Oh, I think you're muted.
Yeah, out in Alaska doing his thing, building igloos or whatever they
Yeah,
do out
right?
there, looking at black bears or I don't
Yeah.
know. There's a lot of stuff. My uncle actually went on a cruise out to Alaska too. He loved it. I'm not that outdoorsy.
Nah, me
Um,
neither. Yeah, I get
I'll
cold.
look at the pictures and
Me
be like,
too.
hey, yeah, that
It's
looks great.
beautiful.
I'm
And
not
I
going
understand
there.
that some people want to do it, but for me, I start freezing. My socks get cold and I'm
Yeah,
wet and then I'm uncomfortable. I'm thinking about it. You know what I mean? Like, no, thank you. No,
that's why I live in
thank you.
Florida, man. It.
I'm in California. I'm in SoCal and Long Beach. That's why
Exactly,
you and I are kindred spirits, man. We have
exactly.
similar feelings on some of that. But we'll be checking in with you guys next week when Chase is back and rolling. As we finish up, we move to the Whitney. Now, what we know as we record on Thursday, Mindframe is going to be out. They entered Mindframe and Fierceness because the races are drawn so early that if something happened in the last few days with Fierceness, they could have had Mindframe in here to run, but he'll likely be out. So we don't really have to talk about him in this race. And it's a big player who would have been one of, if not the horse to beat in here, being removed. So him out of the race, still a really strong field. You have the Breeders' Cup Classic winner from last year, who you feel like kind of had a nice bounce back performance in the Foster. It was just visually better than the New Orleans race. And now it should set him up for, a little bit better this year, the rest of the year. You've got Fierceness. And it's funny, I was talking with Scott Shapiro a little bit about this. We previewed the race for the Sports Grid show that will run tomorrow. Early on in his career, remember when the kind of narrative with him was that he was inconsistent,
Yeah, I didn't stick
right?
to that.
Because
Yeah,
it was win, then the Champagne, he didn't really fire. Then the Breeders' Cup, you and I had him that day in the Juvenile when he wins at 16-1. Then a little disappointing in his first start in the Holy Bull. Then he wins the Florida Derby. Then in the Kentucky Derby, he's disappointing. So at that point, we're thinking he was one of those horses who we didn't really know if he was like a fighter or was he the type that would kind of win with perfect trips. He, if something went wrong, he didn't really stick in there. He has completely flipped that script. Like he is so consistent now. You're going to get a great race from him. And, sometimes he'll run into other really good horses that perform really, really well. But he flipped it from being that kind of in and out horse to just as consistent as they come the last year to year plus.
yeah. It's funny you say that because there's some old episodes of Going in Circles where myself and Chuck were talking about Fierceness and how we didn't think he was kind of like the every other sort of horse. He just got unlucky. He was really like in his Holy Bull, he was totally short.
Yep.
I mean, just look at who beat him. Hades. That horse went on like a 10-race losing streak after that. Then comes back, crushes in the Florida Derby, and that was his true self. Derby, he just never had a chance. He never, got a bad start, just never had a chance. But just the positioning of where those lines are in his past performances, people were suggesting that he was every other. I didn't think so. I thought he was solid. He just was unlucky, and it showed when he came back in July of 2024. He just ripped off, some good races in the Jim Dandy and the Travers. Then in the Breeders' Cup, he ran a
He was so
bang-up race,
good.
but it was a supersonic pace, and
Yep.
It made me think more about what Sierra Leone was, rather than how good Fierceness actually ran that day, because he basically took all the
He did
heat
all the dirty
early
work, right?
and got beat late as expected. And then he came back this year and has been great. I know he lost the Raging Torrent, but that's really not his bag. He's not a miler. He wants to go longer than that.
So, I mean, when you have him and you have Sierra Leone, those two will take a bunch of the money. I do wonder from just a gambling standpoint, like if you're looking at betting this race, who are the horses that could maybe jump up with races that are good enough to compete with those two? The one that, from a gambling standpoint, is this guy going to be bettable on Saturday, White Abario, for maybe the first time in a little while?
He's the third guy.
He's
the third one.
Like, I mean, he can do this. We saw him 2 years ago win the Whitney against a good field, earn a 110 Beyer speed figure. We saw him win the Pegasus World Cup with a 109 Beyer speed figure. He has run well at Saratoga. He's won the Breeders' Cup Classic. He can step up on big days and win. And when you look at his last 7 or 8 starts, he might be double the price he's been in any of those races.
For sure.
He feels to me like a must-have in the pick 4s and pick 5s. If this is a race where you're using a couple, he had to be one of the couple for me.
Yeah, because you don't want to get beat by a horse that's that logical in this kind of spot. I mean, he's run fast enough to win this race. He can beat Fierceness on his best day, or maybe not even his best day. He's very competitive with a horse like that. I don't see too much of that in here.
Me neither. That's what's hard about, like, for example, a horse like I like Post Time as a horse a lot. I think he's very honest.
Solid, yeah.
He's never been worse than third in any of his starts. Can he beat a field like this at 1 mile and an eighth and beat like all 3 of those horses that we just named?
No, because he'd be the 4th guy in this scenario. So if
like,
you rank them, I do this quite a bit, is I'll rank the horses in a race, especially in these kind of top level sort of races. So you have Fierceness as the 1, Sierra Leone as the 2,
Abario
is the 3, and then Post Time and Skippy would be 4th and 5th respectively. And then beyond that, I really don't know how Highland Falls could actually win this race. So that would be probably the other one.
That to me is the one of everybody else that we in the field. I wonder if he has one of those big races in him if the circumstances are right. Making his second start back, getting a little bit longer distance. He's got some versatility to him. So, he can sit a little bit closer if they're not going that fast. He can take back a little bit and close. Won't be a problem for him, 1 mile and an eighth. We've seen him get 1 mile and a quarter. I don't think he's as good as Sierra Leone, Fierceness, or White Abario. I think if you remove those 3 and you're looking at the rest of this field and you're trying to find a price horse that could maybe on their best day be the horse there, you were kind of mentioning the other couple. I'm wondering with him, like if you eliminate the Breeders' Cup, say you got a wide trip, race didn't shape up for him, he didn't fire that day. Everything else around it is pretty solid. I didn't like him as much last year, and I know David hit him big time in that Jockey Club Gold Cup when he won the big race at 7-1. But I'm trying to see if there is anyone else in this course, he would be the one that I'm maybe not done with yet. but there's just a lot of horses that I don't
Well,
think are good enough when I go
two
through the field.
things. I got two negatives about Highland Falls that I will probably won't gravitate towards this horse. One is this horse got beat by Skippy Longstocking and got his best Beyer speed figure.
No, that's a great
So
point, right?
so he lost to a horse that he's running against in the same race where he ran his best and didn't win.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a good point.
And
Yeah.
then the second thing is he lost to Tapit Trice.
Yeah. he like that. Yeah, that's what
Those are the two negatives. I mean, it's hard to lose to Tapit Trice. You really have to try.
So Skippy, who's right next door to him, we've kind of hit on this before with Skippy. He's never won a grade 1. In his 11 wins, he has been higher than 9-2 one time. Or no, his highest win is at 9-2. So if you go through all of his victories just from the very beginning, you can see he breaks his maiden, he's 5-2. He wins and he's 9-2 when he wins his second start. Then he wins the West Virginia Derby, he's 7-2. He's 3-1 in the Harlan's Holiday. And then we see him just getting bet anytime he's winning. He wins the Challenger, heavily favored, wins the Charlestown Classic favored, wins the Challenger again.
I think
Oaklawn
he's won the Challenger again 4 times.
3, I think 3, right? 3.
Last
yeah,
3
3 in a
years.
row.
Yeah.
And I like every time we talk about him now, it has to be mentioned that Saffie Joseph Jr. does a great job with this horse. He finds the good spots where he's going to be favored a lot of the times. Like the Gold Cup last time. That was a soft spot. He was the favorite. He got the job done. He put away a field that was not that strong, and he picks up, another grade 2 victory.
Lost the Tapit Trice.
He's kind of in that group with me, right? But he's kind of in the group with Highland Falls in that. Are these horses really good enough to step up and beat those top 3 horses that we discussed?
I don't think so. When he was dominating those fields like at Tampa, he was just far.
He's better. He's better than those horses.
Way better than those horses. I mean, last year, or actually earlier this year, Most Wanted gave him a little bit of run, but he really was just much the best in the Challenger. And like you said, he gets in these spots where he should dominate. He can't dominate in this spot. So I would think he would probably be, if anything, might be a sacrificial lamb for White Barrio, where he could just go out, wing it, try to get other horses involved, try to push Fierceness to the brink, and then have White Barrio sitting right there to swoop past. That's what I would do. But again, I'm not a trainer either. I don't know what they think their chances really are. It's hard to figure. Because how is that horse going to beat Fierceness or even Post Time for that matter?
So you have horses like the 4 Mama's Gold, who's a New York bred who can fly early and has to be in here for that reason.
Mm-hmm.
But you also have a horse in here who's kind of a rabbit for Sierra Leone, the 8, Contrary Thinking, same owner, same trainer. And this is a horse who just showed speed when they put him going longer for the first time. So his best chance is to try to show speed, go to the front, but that will also help set it up for his stablemate. So I am kind of curious where you have him, you have the 4. And then, like you said, horses like Skippy could absolutely be forwardly placed in here because it's best for them, but it also helps, their stablemate to make sure that it's a very honest pace. Yeah, I
mean, that kind of upgrades Post Time because he's a dead closer like Sierra Leone, but he just doesn't have the closing speed like Sierra Leone. So
yeah,
I mean,
right, he's a closer.
I was going to say, as much as I preach about no chalk zone, it's hard to get around Fierceness and Sierra Leone in this spot because either pace scenario or the most likely ones favor those 2 horses.
And that's why I thought White Barrio was the real intriguing horse in here, because he's the one that you could see maybe adapting, being a little versatile. He's capable. He's not been as consistently good as those couple recently at the highest levels, but he should just offer you the value in here, making his second start back. White Barrio. Yeah, for me, if I was going against those others, I went to Highland Falls as kind of my tricky, intriguing horse. For Barry, there's horse like Post Time and Skippy as like the maybe horses who could run really big in here. Because remember, Disarm Like when we saw Disarm, he's 4th in the Derby in 2023, and then he's 2nd in the Travers, and he had put up 4 consecutive 100+ buyer speed figures. And then he just hasn't really stepped forward as an older horse the last 2 years. We just haven't seen him able to get faster. He was 4th in this race last year, but this is a tougher version of the race than it was last year with Arthur's Ride and Crouppy running 1-2.
And he's changed running styles too. I mean, when he was kind of at his best, he was always a little bit more forwardly placed. Now he kind of sits back and chills a little bit, and it just lessens his kick. And
that race that he won at Churchill last year when he came back was so weird. That one that went like
was strange.
52 to the hat, and it was like I didn't know what to take out of it before the Foster, and we just haven't really seen him progress. I kept wanting to come and make cases for him in spots, but it's not able to really compete with the top tier of horses. Got through most of this field for the Whitney. I mean, this is as good of a card as they've had so far at Saratoga this year. Barry, we've got 4 consecutive grade 1s in a row. And the reason why we took a shot at this sequence, low takeout sequence, pick 5, and we can talk about all of those grade 1 races in the middle of it. So a lot of focus will be out at Saratoga this weekend.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the pools will be big as long as, the weather and everything cooperates, which it looks like it should. Should be a fun weekend of racing between Saratoga and Del Mar for sure.
Barry, I just celebrated my 7th anniversary with my significant other a couple days ago, and you are celebrating your 11th today as we sit right here and talk. So you and I need to make some money this weekend.
Oh yeah,
we
pay for this dinner.
Exactly. So hopefully we can be led into the winner's circle. And a big thank you to our significant others for putting up with you and me through the years, just a few days apart. So yeah, right. I was gonna say that's a lot. I said that's a lot of losing race days where I'm like frustrated and I'm like, oh my gosh. So yeah, sainthood over there for Stephanie. Barry, my friend, good luck to you this weekend. We'll be going back and forth. Good luck to everyone playing the races at Saratoga, at Del Mar, wherever you're playing. A couple things to remind you about before we get out of here. That Whitney Day Challenge, $500 to enter. You can win big seats for future contests there, like the Pegasus World Cup Betting Challenge, NHC seats, and money. And these are the races that you're already going to be looking at and playing. Fun in the Sun is those first 5 races from Del Mar, last 5 from Saratoga. We talked about a couple of those. And the DRF AI tool, chat.drf.com. This will help you as a handicapper and as a gambler. This will help save you tons of time. Chat.drf.com. For Barry, I'm Gino. We'll talk to you again next week. Subscribe to the YouTube channel below. Make sure to head on over to the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel. Subscribe there. Check out the Off the Track podcast that we've been rolling out. We just had Katie Davis on last week. That was a great chat with her. And we wish you all the best of luck on Whitney Day.